Hello and welcome to the Hotkeys podcast. This is the show where we talk about everything pop culture and random in the world. My name is Mick, and with me as always,
Landon Browning
and David Parker.
And that's it for this episode. No Will. I don't even want to waste my breath talking about Colby anymore because let's face it, he's never coming back.
No, probably not.
Yeah, I don't think Will be here for the rest of March. Apparently,
And it's just starting.
Yes, today is March 1st.
Yeah.
And we'll miss him dearly.
Yes, he is gone.
Gone but not forgotten. Who are we talking about?
Maybe like 3 weeks into March, we'll be like, are we? Why do we have four? Yeah, why do we have 4 chairs in here?
2 extra mics.
Why did I buy 4 chairs for this room? Oh, that's right, for the sign that sits on one of them. That we couldn't hang on the wall.
And the laptop sits on the other one.
No, the laptop sits on a little stand.
Oh, I get a table, not a chair.
We got a side
you
table.
get a little table.
Sweet.
Yeah. So
a $15 Walmart table.
yes, they're very nice tables for $15.
I've got one of my own.
I feel like they're pretty solid.
I mean, they're definitely not solid.
Are they
They're
not?
very rickety.
What are you using it for?
Oh,
like
you
your
know.
dining. Is it your dining room table?
Yeah, basically.
Oh, yeah. That reminds me of my time in the Tri-Cities. That little your dad gave me that little rickety table,
Tiny little.
and I think I ate probably 93% of my meals on that table. And it's not. It was pretty sad.
Awesome.
I mean, it was sad.
Was it that table that led to your depression?
Oh, I think it probably contributed. I don't think it was probably the fact that 1 year later my apartment looked like it had just been moved into probably was like a pretty good sign. Like how life was going.
But life's better now, and we don't talk about those days, except for when we bring them up.
The dark.
Like every other week.
I feel like that was a defining year for me. It's custom in our friend group to make a 1 year pilgrimage to a city, and then like be really sad for a year and then come back. I've done it. Mick's done it.
Dave,
Colby in the middle of it.
Dave's taken it to like an extreme.
Yeah, he's on a crusade.
Yeah.
Ours are just pilgrimages.
Yep. Speaking of changing the podcast, we used to have like a day show, morning show.
Well, we used to have a
sharp.
night show.
We always met our time.
No, we've never recorded in the evening before ever.
Yeah.
Okay, Landon.
Will was definitely not there. And now we've moved to like, what is this, prime time weeknight?
I don't.
Yeah,
this
Wednesday
would probably be like a prime time slot.
Yeah, prime time. So we moved up.
Which is that Wednesday one of the worst nights for like a?
No,
what's the
Friday
worst
is the
night?
worst
Tuesday?
night.
Friday's the worst night.
Yeah,
Thursdays are good, right?
probably.
I think Thursdays
Mondays
are
are
typically
good.
good. Mondays are good.
I think most
Sundays
weeknights
are
are good, except for Friday, right? Saturday is not good. Sunday night is good.
Unfortunately,
Saturday
we're kind
night,
of competing
though,
with
Friday night is bad.
with the Mandalorian
Yes.
because new season Mandalorian
Well,
came out.
isn't that
and
up
comes out on
Wednesday
Wednesdays,
mornings?
So, Tuesday nights.
Oh,
it's
see,
Tuesday night?
See, we're good.
Okay.
We're good.
I mean, midnight.
I mean, this isn't going to be posted until a Sunday morning, in mid-April anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Man, you need to catch up.
I'm glad you're self-aware.
Yeah.
Now take the next step and just start releasing the episodes, please.
I'm almost caught up.
You're almost.
Yes.
Have you just been like releasing like one a day?
That's what I've done for some of them. So like every week I'll do like 2 to 3 episodes. So I think I'm 1 episode behind right now.
Dang.
Yep.
Soon to be 2.
Well done.
Yep.
You're you're like 2 1/8 or 1 1/8 behind in counting.
Yes.
Mando.
So yeah, Mando. We all watched it, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
First episode.
Yeah. What'd you guys think?
Well, I would say
The
not a
season
lot
season
happened, right?
premiere of
No, not much, but it's fun to be back with the space cowboy that makes me forget about my problem. So,
boom.
the music starts, like my eyes roll back into my head. Like I just like,
And you're like 30 minutes of bliss.
yeah, it's like 30 minutes of escapism. And like the credits are rolling. I'm like,
I liked when
reality of life.
when Grogu hugged that weird little tiny alien.
Yeah, that was funny.
That was really funny.
Like he's not a toy.
I like
Anytime Grogu grabs something, it's just freaking comedy.
Well, I like that
I'm like-
whole conversation where like the one guy is like translating for the
Carl
aliens,
Weathers.
but like Carl Weathers
yeah.
is there, but like there's no translating that's needed, and like clearly
It was like
he's getting
like
bothered.
3/4 of the stuff he we're spoiling this episode, by the way. 3/4 of the stuff he understood, and then like occasionally it'd be like, I didn't get that.
It reminded me of
gonna
Galaxy
confess.
Quest, Mick, with Sigourney Weaver's character, where she's repeating what the computer is saying, but like everyone can hear the computer.
Landon still has not seen that movie.
I need to watch it.
Oh my goodness,
We need to watch it together.
Yeah.
That's a together movie.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
that-
confess that I'm a complete idiot. Like, so the opening of this episode is like on this like beach with like they're like doing a ceremony to give like this character their helmet or whatever, and I totally like thought it was like a flashback. up
I
until,
think
like-
that was maybe
I think it's kind of set up that
intentional.
way.
Okay, well maybe I don't feel stupid now.
No,
'cause
no.
Like, when like his starship shows up, I'm like, oh my, oh.
I thought it was
I
maybe
thought
kind of
Mando.
like
I thought,
tongue in cheek, almost making fun, and I could be like totally reading into this. But to me, I took it almost as like making fun of those kind of like flashback scenes where you get something that's not important, and especially since we've had literally like those like they showed Anakin as a kid and no one wanted it. They showed Boba Fett as a kid and no one wanted it, and it could just be me like really reading into the scene. But I was like watching it, being like, man, I really hope this isn't a flashback and that we're seeing like young.
What if this whole season would have been just young Mando?
Oh my!
And then it was like very end is like, okay, we'll catch up to Grogu now. See what they're
I
doing.
would lose my
Present
mind.
time. That would have made sense for why they brought Grogu and Mando back together so quickly. They would have a whole season without Grogu.
Yeah.
Have it both ways.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah. No, you weren't. I definitely was like, oh,
Okay, I
they're
feel like-
flashbacking here.
Yeah, and then like the spaceship shows up, and I'm like, oh.
I was like, oh,
my
thank
God.
goodness.
I also like. I thought it was like kind of funny watching like the cultist Mandalorians getting like just wrecked by this like sea monster thing. Like, they were
Seems like
getting
an
wrecked by it.
irresponsible place to have that ceremony.
Yeah.
where there is
Yeah.
clearly like a
threat.
like a mega dinosaur that lives.
It's like let's have a knighting ceremony right in front of this lion's den.
Yeah.
What's the worst that could happen?
Yeah.
I forgot what I was going to say.
Yeah, not much happens though in the episode. It's just kind of like,
Oh,
Mando got a bunch of
one-
quests. Like his quest
one
log
thing I thought-
got filled up.
yes, this quest log, yeah,
he's
optional.
fully-
like,
Sure,
you're like, oh, this is a side quest. Oh, this is a main quest. And you're like, oh, this
There's
is one of
nothing
those
left
like you
to-
can pick which one you want to do.
There's nothing left to upgrade though.
There's always
okay.
Mick, you haven't played an MMO. Like there's always like we just got
I'm
the new
playing
expansion.
Hogwarts Legacy right now. That's not an MMO. No, I thought it was weird. So they have the armor and Din Djarin have a conversation, which is kind of just a repeat of what they've already talked about. And it was weird that they like showed that in the past and like the recap, and then they like had that almost exact same conversation. That was the only part of the episode that I was like, maybe like if you didn't show it in the recap, then I'd understand like, oh, kind of remind you what happened. But the fact that they one had that conversation already, two they showed it again in the recap, and then three they had that basically same conversation again. It was like, what's the what?
Yeah.
That just felt kind of weird. But other than that, the episode was really good.
I don't know. Bo-Katan was kind of looking at Mando like, I don't know. I feel like
What is wrong
some
with you?
tension there. There's some tension. Like,
I mean, there's tension, but the way you're
I don't know.
Lips
Man, I
are-
felt like
Did
there
you
was-
bring the dark
saber?
Yeah, he's like, oh, I got my dark. Like, classic. Is that their way of like she's not going to be in the show though? Like, she's like, oh, I lost my army. Like, or is she going to be?
I think she's going to be more of the antagonist of this season.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think she's not going to take what happened. Excuse me. She's not going to take what happened with the loss of the Darksaber and all of her people lightly.
Yeah,
And I think she blames
It's not Mando's fault, dude.
she blames Mando for it.
He just beat what Gideon in that
Moff
fight.
Gideon, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because like she looks at him like he's like she even like calls him out as being like a weird cultist and everything. But the fact that she's like so like proud of like everything that has to do with the Darksaber when she just could have taken the Darksaber from him in the beginning.
Because doesn't he offer it to her?
Yeah, he's like, you can take it.
But she's like, no, you have to get it.
Like
in
I have to
combat.
beat you in combat or best you in combat or whatever. Fairly. So it seems like both of them kind of have their stubbornness, weird.
Yeah. I thought it was weird that
followings.
like even her like right hand men like or like the one I think it was.
And honestly,
Gideon,
that's
like,
just
like,
what
they left.
that's
her.
just what she's told us.
Oh yeah.
It could end up being a red herring. Excuse me. Something
A red
it could
mixed down. Okay, we're down to Landon and me.
Da, 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 da.
what if that's my last
Your
my
last
last act?
a red.
A burpee hiccup. Actually, that sounds pretty accurate. Yeah, I think that she'll be playing a bigger part in this season.
Okay.
But yeah, in terms of things that have, there's a cool dogfight in space.
I liked that. That was fun.
That was really cool to see that. Showing off his new ship they got in the last season, and we didn't really see like much of it. Actually, no, he got it in
Boba Fett.
Boba Fett. So we haven't seen it in the
Still weird. It's still weird that like.
I mean, it really is Mando season 2.5.
Yeah,
that's the way I look at it.
I think that's how everybody looks at it, right?
Which I'm happy with because like I didn't find the Boba Fett stuff like super great. So yeah.
There was some really compelling stuff, but I mean, I feel like if the Mandalorian show didn't exist, the show would be a lot more like praised. But the fact that I think Mando, they've written that character in a way that I think a lot of people saw Boba Fett as, I think it just kind of shot themselves in the foot in a way, because it's like if they just made him another Mando Din Djarin character, then it's like, is that interesting?
Yeah.
So I think they did the best they could, but I understand why a lot of people don't really like that show.
Oh, that was okay.
No, you hated it.
I didn't hate it.
It's not my least favorite Star Wars show.
That is.
What is your least favorite?
Obi-Wan.
Obi-Wan. I think Obi-Wan's terrible. I think that's a terrible show. Like I thought that was like a travesty. Yeah. I was like revolted by that show.
It's really disappointing.
I'm going to be honest. Like
really disappointing.
What was the villain character? What was her name?
Oh, stop.
Riva.
I don't want to.
Probably one of the worst.
She was like a video game villain. Like
yeah.
Like,
and it's funny because the second sister in it's funny you say that, because the second sister in the Jedi game, what's it called?
Fallen Order. It's
basically like similar character, similar.
It's like a worse version of her, like
similar arc. But it was just like done. It was just done so much worse in the show, and it's like, how do you mess that up?
I don't know.
Why? Okay, we're not.
I don't want to talk about. I don't want to talk about the Obi-Wan show.
Let's talk about a good really Star Wars show. Do you guys have any expectations for this season? Like, is there anything you guys are wanting to see?
I really don't. I have none. I'm just like, oh, Mando season 3. I don't know anything about it.
You're not really a fan, right? Of Mando.
Well, I like Mandalorian a lot.
Mandalorian for me is like escapism television. Like I'm not looking to be compelled that much by it. Like I'm looking for like just kind of fun, like I want like stakes and stuff with like Grogu and Mando's relationship and stuff. But like I'm mostly watching it for like kind of like.
You're watching it for the boom.
Yeah, I'm watching for a fun show. I'm not watching it for like
boom.
All I heard is that you want Grogu steaks, which seems kind of like dark.
Yeah, it'd be messed up.
You really want to eat
aged 50 years.
A delicacy.
Yeah, anything. The pirates looked really cool. That like main pirate guy looks sweet.
He
had a really cool character design. He almost looked like Swamp Thing or something from like the DC comics or something.
Yeah. What race is he? Do you know?
I don't know. Alien swamp man race. Swampy Swamperson. I don't know.
Swampy.
How many episodes is this season going to be?
Probably 8 or 9.
Okay.
I think that's what they normally are, right?
Okay.
I think this one was chapter 17. So do the math. The other two, blah blah blah, equals up to whatever this is. And 8, 16, 17.
Yeah. Oh.
So 8.
8 apiece.
There you go.
All right. We did it. Math. We're finally doing it.
We finally did it.
Oh.
But yeah, I'm glad it's back. It feels like it's been a long time since we've had the show.
We get 2 doses of Pedro Pascal every week.
Yeah. Can you imagine having like 2 just knock out of the park shows going on at the same time?
He's an actor that I have not seen anything in him with him in it that is like not good. Like even if it's not like great, like his character is still good.
He was. I mean, Wonder Woman 2 is like, it's whatever. He was
the best
so
part
funny.
of Wonder Woman 2.
He was so funny in that movie.
I really need to watch that Nicolas Cage movie with him.
Oh yeah,
Nicolas Cage plays himself.
Yeah.
Like, heard it's really funny. But I mean, his character on Game of Thrones was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Like probably like a standout character. That sci-fi movie Prospect.
That was really
good in. I liked his character in Kingsman 2. I don't know. I know people didn't like that movie as much, but
I think that was the first. I think that was the first Pedro Pascal role I saw.
Okay, I liked his character in that. He was.
I didn't really like the movie, but he was like probably the best part.
Yeah, he's just good and everything. Yeah. Last of Us, he's killing it. Mando, he's killing it.
Yeah.
He's awesome.
He is.
Yeah, you should just watch Game of Thrones just for his character. Like,
Well, he's in the good seasons, so you can watch
he is
him.
in the good seasons. Yeah.
Is there any season I can like stop at and be like, okay,
We've said this
is
before, but
somewhat-
yes, watch 1 through 4 and then stop, and then you don't have to watch anymore.
But is there like, is there like a good enough like
Yes,
ending there?
I
where
think
it's
there
like,
is.
Hey, I can
What's the
believe
good
that
ending?
This is the end of the season.
It's the end of season 4.
The end of the show.
The end of season 4 is the end of the 3rd book, Landon.
Okay. Oh yeah. Yep. That's a fine place. I would see the problem is that you're going to finish the 4th season and you're going to like, oh my god, it's so good. Like you're like they have to be wrong. Like and then you watch the 5th season and be like, it was still pretty good. Like you're still high off of like that, and then like you watch the 6th season. You're like, all right, and then like the 7th season, and now you're getting so desensitized to like how bad it's getting that like you're like, like I guess it's a little bit worse than season 6, and then you get to season 8, and you're like, you're just grabbing your hair and pulling it out, and like you're screaming. And
That's not a problem for me.
hey,
yeah, I don't know. These are just all reasons why I shouldn't watch the show.
no, it's so good though,
Man.
especially the early seasons, and then the prequel show is pretty good. I don't think I talked about like finishing it.
You were
No, you
saying
didn't- you
earlier
didn't talk
though,
about
that you were
finishing it.
like,
So
I
I will-
don't know if I loved it or if I don't know if I hate it.
So after finishing it,
You love it?
I am.
Is it done?
The first season's done. Yes,
How many episodes?
it was 10.
It was done months
Man, I
ago.
went fast.
Yeah, I was watching after it completely aired.
Oh, okay.
After finishing it, I'm very excited for the next season. They end it on like a really cool note. Like there's a great like sequence that happens at the end of it that I'm very excited. Like I think they're very much going for like this is the setup for the rest of the show. Like we're treating the first 10 episodes as like kind of setting the stage.
Mm-hmm.
And I think from now on, I don't think there'll be as many time jumps. I'm not positive, but I think they were like basically trying to do like a quick like we're going to spend 10 episodes to kind of like set up the backstory for everything that's going to happen in the rest of the show.
And this is still stuff that's based off of his writings, right?
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
not just.
I'm pretty sure I could look up. Yeah, I could like look up spoilers for. You could?
Yeah, I'm good.
I'm pretty sure I could look up spoilers for everything that happens in this, even though they haven't made it, because I think most of it, like,
So-
there's at least a what would the term be? Like, there's a map for it because it's all like technically history that's happened.
So is that all in like his other books, or is it like some accompanying
It's probably a mix.
type of book thing?
I think, I
Because
think
like with Tolkien stuff, he has his novels. Then he has in each novel he has like appendices with like tons of history and backstory for characters and what's happened. And then he has like the Silmarillion, unfinished tales. Like there's a bunch of like that type of stuff. It is.
I think he has a book called Fire and Blood that's like a historical, like it's like a fictional historical book about like what happened beforehand.
Wonder where you got that idea.
Probably, I mean, from Tolkien. But so it's like kind of nice knowing that like they have some liberties probably with certain like things that can happen, but like I mean, a lot of the stuff with a lot of the characters is already set in stone, so they can't really,
Right.
you know,
Because it has to line up with.
yes, with which I probably, if I was more up to date, like if I was more fresh on my Game of Thrones knowledge, I would probably know where some of the stuff happened, but I'm a little rusty on it. So it's kind of nice that I'm like, I'm not going to really dig into what's happening. I'm just
Because
gonna
you'd rather
enjoy
just.
it.
See
Yeah, I'd rather just enjoy it in the show. Like,
That makes sense.
so I think it's a little like it was a little frustrating to watch it as it was happening, but after like getting done with the season, I'm like, okay, I think I'm excited for what's going to happen. So I would say watch Game of Thrones first, though, especially the early seasons. I would even say watch the whole entire show. Like the ending's pretty bad, but it also might not be as bad if you watch the show in like quick.
Maybe.
Like
Instead
you
of
know, it's like
waiting,
one of those.
like,
Yeah, like,
years
it's like I feel like
between or whatever.
people that like watched Lost live were more disappointed
Man,
with
that
the
was
ending.
brutal.
You know what I mean?
Some of those waits were so. Man.
Because I heard people talk about how like they hated the ending, and I like binge watched the show, and I wasn't disappointed with it.
No, I still like the. I guess I'm the exception because I did have to wait between seasons,
Yeah.
and I still like the ending. But I think I'm just more of a positive person.
So you might like Game of Thrones then. Like, I think you should watch it. It's really good.
I'm sure at some point I'll get around to it.
It's a quick, like, I mean, like once you start it, like it takes a little bit getting into because there's a lot of characters.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, it's really intriguing and it's fun, and there's a lot of fun violence and like intrigue and political.
And Pedro Pascal is in it, just like in The Last of Us.
Yeah. The last. Oh,
Isn't Bella
yeah, Bella Ramsey's also
Ramsey?
in
In
it.
it?
Yep.
Yeah.
They never share any screen time in the show. They're kind of in separate parts of the.
Are they in the same season?
I don't think so. I don't think they are. Bella Ramsey's very. I'm trying to remember where her character comes in. I get confused on because they're like Pedro Pascal's character's like super down south in the map of like what's going on, and like Bella Ramsey's character's like all the way up north. So they have like no.
Oh, okay.
It's
They
like
don't,
saying, like
interact at all.
Like Jon Snow like interacts with almost none of the other main characters throughout most of the show.
It's so weird.
Yeah, like outside of like occasional things, like
It's a phone call.
yes, yeah, a raven.
Yeah. I'll text you.
Yeah. So, but yeah, The Last of Us.
Hey,
you
Bran,
guys all
how's it
do-
going?
Oh, my Bran sucks. You guys all watched the new episode of The Last of Us?
Yeah.
The Left Behind episode?
Is that the name of the DLC or something?
Yeah, the DLC is called Left Behind.
Okay. Yeah. And it was basically like a straight adaptation of that, right? Like I haven't played the DLC in a while.
It was very similar.
But it seemed like it was just like
no
a
water gun fight. No water gun fight.
Oh,
That was the only
okay.
thing that I remembered that was missing.
Yeah. A few different things. Again, spoiler for the latest episode of Last of Us. In the beginning, they show more of kind of the day-to-day life of what a military kid student is going through.
I like that a
because they
lot.
show her just jogging and like the school
And
stuff.
some type of PE class or whatever, and just the dynamics of some of the horrible kids there. And then I like seeing like a more like, I guess you could call it good side of Fedra, with a guy that was like clearly like, hey, I'm rooting for you here. Like just make smarter decisions and you can, have a good, pretty good life in Fedra.
Yeah. Clearly a more neutral to positive
Right,
version.
exactly.
Everything else we've seen from Fedra is just corrupt, like
Basically.
like kind of like dictatorship.
And in the accompanying podcast that they do, they talked about that specifically. They were like, yeah, we wanted to show that, Fedra isn't just all, black and white, all just bad or corrupt. Like there are like good people in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Which was, I appreciated that, because after a while it's like, man, like, is this really realistic? Is it like, would there really not be like one good person in this?
In the
whole
game,
thing?
it's mostly just Fedra's just like a blank. Like
It really
these
doesn't
are
go
bad,
into
like,
anything at all. It just is like, oh, Fedra, run away from him. So I like that. But yeah, other than that, it really follows fairly closely to the DLC. One thing that's interesting though is if you just played the first game, Joel falls off the horse, same way in the game as in the show, cuts to black, and then it does a time jump of however many weeks or so, and you plays Ellie.
Yep.
He plays Ellie for quite a bit of time, and throughout this whole time, you're like, "Is Joel dead? Like, what happened?"
Yep. You're hunting. You're like hunting.
You're
right?
hunting. You're on your own, and I think that's when you come across David for a little bit.
Yep.
But that whole time, you're like, you don't know what happened to Joel. Like, it doesn't say
Yeah, because
anything.
you get with
about him.
David, you fight with David for a little bit.
You fight with David, and I
Isn't
think
that like
you
the
separate
hardest
for a
part of the
little bit.
game? Like when you're holed up in that, is it a mill or something?
It's like a shack or something.
It's an old.
I think that was
it's
the
an
hardest part of the game.
It's an
for
old
me.
factory or something. But
Yeah, you're fighting with David, and then like you guys, you split it. You get like, do you trade for medical supplies from
I
him? or
don't
something?
remember. Something happens where you leave him for a little bit. I think.
And they follow you back though.
Yes,
to
I think
Joel's
that's it.
at.
And then so then you come back to Joel. But I'm wondering like what it would be like in the show if you had an episode where you're like, man, like what happened to Joel? Like taking away that suspense.
Yeah,
It's like, oh, I wonder how that would have played out. I mean,
because in the
chances are you're like, there's no way that
he would have died off.
would have died.
Yeah.
Like they can't do that type of thing. But in the game, I remember that like, oh my gosh, like what happened to Joel? Like what is he dead? Like oh
my gosh!
The original DLC, like the Left Behind DLC, you play with Ellie. It's not just all flashback with Riley. You're also playing in like a
you
area
play in the current time.
when you're
where-
away from Joel, right? You're trying to get.
So in the show, it's similar. In the game, it's a little bit different because instead of a house basement, you're actually in another mall.
Oh, okay.
And you lock him in a store where you're trying to find medical supplies. So it's similar to how they do it in the show, but in the show, it's just in a house. But in the game, you're like going through this mall. You're like still fighting clickers here and there.
There's like human enemies too, right?
I think there's human enemies also, and then you end up finding medical supplies in like this crashed helicopter that crashes into the mall, and it's just that's one part of the episode where I was like, oh man, like that would have been cool to see more of like fantastical set pieces and have a little bit more action here and there, like intercut with.
I did
what's going
forget
on
about
with
the helicopter. That was
Ellie.
really cool.
Yeah, going on with Ellie and Riley. Because if I have one complaint about the episode, I feel like some of it kind of dragged on a little bit. So that would have been nice to have a little bit more like cut back to Ellie, and she's like fighting for her life, like trying to find something that
Yeah.
saves Joel. But other than that, I thought it was actually a really fun episode. It goes through this, fun but really sad story.
There's like nothing happy in this show. Like
With,
it's like every like
It reminds me of like the whole like series of unfortunate events series where it's like just one thing after. I mean, this
need
is
to
on
read
this
that. I
is
need
on
to
a
read
completely
those.
like different level of like
Sad.
crappy maturity sadness. But it's still like, man, like these people just can't get a break. Everything always just falls apart and just sucks. There is a good payoff at the end of this story, though. At least the first
I mean, I don't,
first game story
it's all
was.
still pretty sad. Like
It's sad, but I mean, there is like a good like feeling about it, especially coming from Joel's perspective.
oh yeah.
But yeah, the episode ends in a tragic way, but I like how it like kind of foreshadows what Ellie's going through in the current time with Joel. How she's like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to give up on you. You told me to, piss off basically, but I'm
Yeah.
no, I'm going to stay here. I love the connection between those two. Like, I think that was the first time that like Joel really felt like love for this kid who's like, he's now seeing as his daughter type of thing. And each episode, they've really been like ramping that up really nicely, where I think now it's like really paying off. It's like, I totally believe that Joel sees her as his daughter now.
Yeah.
And obviously for the next episode and then one after that, it really sets up why Joel makes certain decisions.
Yep. I think the most I choked up probably the most in this episode when Ellie and Riley are dancing on the glass with like the masks on, and like they take it off and like they kiss or whatever. She's like, please don't leave. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh man, like this is really sad.
What
And
is
then
interesting-
like it's like minutes later, I'm like, oh my god, like oh dude, I can't like keep.
Well,
like,
it was interesting too, because in the game, it's like a horde of infected.
Yeah.
And there's this whole scene where you're like running through the mall. You're like, going through doors, locking doors, like trying to get out. You climb up the scaffolding. You think you're about to escape, and then it crashes and falls down. And that's when both of them get bit. It's highly condensed in the show. And they say I like the reason that they gave, but I think there's also like, probably budget reasons too, of like, it's just cheaper to do it this way. But I like what they said, because they were like, we wanted to make the point that like it only takes one infected to like screw up your life.
it's also disappointing that they're just kids too. Like, why would they be able to
They're
take
kid-
like
and that's-
like
That's the other thing. Like the show and the story just does such a good job. And again, it's depressing and it sucks, but it's like there's something just so well done about it, where it's like these kids have had their childhood stolen from them.
yeah
And even like you get a hint of like, I think they're actually like enjoying what their childhood should have been, like simple things like playing video games, like going into the mall.
Well, they can't even have a concept of
around.
what like it is really. They're playing, they're just mashing buttons. Like,
Well, like,
Exactly.
like the escalator. She's like, moving stairs?
The
No way.
escalator.
Like,
Yeah, simple things like that.
Yeah.
It's like, it's stuff that we take for granted, and then people like that is like,
and I also like it
this
too.
is the
Like,
most amazing thing. Magical stairs. Look at me.
yeah, and just
The
the, fact that
photo
they're
booth.
they're both being torn by this like these opposing forces.
It really is
you know?
like Romeo and Juliet type of.
Yeah, like
type
I mean,
of
they're like
vibes.
she's kind of like in the moment Ellie's more leaning towards Fedra, and
Yeah.
like Riley's going. It's both these organizations that are like not really inherently good or bad, that are trying to like utilize children to do things. You know what I mean? Like they're trying to already like turn the new generation of people
And I
to
think-
help them with their whatever their goals are.
Yeah, and I think they set that up well with that conversation with her and the officer, because if they didn't show that, I don't think you would have bought Ellie being like,
Why are you going to?
hey,
join
like
Firefly?
Fedra's like, we got a place here, and they even like talk about it. Like Riley's like, they were gonna have me watch over
Yeah,
like human poo.
and then you find the bomb so that she's making or
Yeah, the pipe
fire
bomb stuff.
Yeah, I think it's just sad. Like, and I think it makes sense just to have one in there, because it seems like this was a station the Fireflies had. Like they had like an outpost there. It wouldn't make any sense for them like to be tons of
No, I
infected in there.
again, it was something like I think initially I was like, oh, that would have been cool to have more of like some type of a little more like action sequence thing. Like, oh, maybe they are getting out, they're free, and then it's ripped away from them. But it still works really well in the show.
I think for the format too.
Yeah.
Like I think they've done a pretty good job of like adapting it from a video game.
Yeah,
to
and a lot of
TV
that type
show.
of stuff is like video gamey stuff where you're controlling the player, and it's just kind of like almost fodder in a way. With a TV show, it probably wouldn't come across that well, but in a video game, it's like that type of stuff is necessary.
Yeah.
So otherwise, you're just not doing
If you
anything.
made an Uncharted movie, you wouldn't have. I mean, I guess they did, but like you would. If you made a more accurate,
You're gonna make
Uncharted
Mick
movie,
angry.
Don't bring.
you
up
wouldn't
that
have. You know what I
garbage.
mean? You wouldn't show like in the Uncharted movie they made like Tom Holland doesn't kill like 400 people. Like in
Not a realistic portrayal of Uncharted.
And that's crucial to the character of Nathan Drake.
Yeah, as
He
he
has
makes
to be a
as he makes a
psychopathic
quip as he
person.
like shoots like the 80th person in the head.
He says, "Oh crap!" and then murders
And does a
4
weird
people.
leap/jump.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So I don't know. Like I've seen people online be like, "Oh my gosh, they only have 2 episodes left to wrap everything up." I'm like, well, there's really not that much. Like the
Next
stuff with
episode is going to be
David.
Which is, I think, the best part of the game.
That's so creepy.
That whole sequence.
It's so
Yeah.
so creepy. The fight in that. I hope they really captured like when they're in that burning.
Oh,
like,
the burning
they had-
lodge.
So at the end of each episode, they have like a little bit of a teaser for
Don't
next
they?
week.
I don't watch those. I don't watch
And then
them.
Yeah, I don't watch
after,
those. I don't watch
and
those.
then
I don't watch
after
them.
that,
Yeah,
they
I don't-
have a behind-the-scenes recap of the
I
episode
don't watch
that you
those
just
either.
watched.
I don't need to watch those either.
But it's a recap of what you just
No,
watched.
I don't like watching it though. I don't want them to like explain to me anything. I just want to like not.
I mean, it's not like explaining it.
No,
it's
I don't,
just
I don't,
like
I don't like watching it though.
you don't like behind-the-scenes stuff.
No, maybe after I've like finished the whole.
You
show,
haven't
I'll go
lived
back.
because behind the scenes.
I like behind the scenes stuff.
It's
And
amazing.
I would probably watch it for the
After
show
I finish the show,
if it was
after I watched.
before the teaser, but I don't want to see any of the teaser.
Just skip over it.
Well, no, but I don't
Give a
want to
fast
like.
forward.
You'll see a frame. You'll see a
Yeah.
frame.
You guys are insane.
Maybe I'll
I'll
watch
probably
all of
watch
them
the show
after.
You
again.
guys know what's going to happen.
I
mean,
know,
yeah,
but
like,
still.
I don't want to. Yeah,
Uh,
it's gonna be David though. We all know. I mean, we know it's. I mean,
oh yeah, yeah.
Do we
I
know
would
who
assume
is
it's-
playing David?
I don't know. Don't tell me.
Oh, okay, I don't either. Mick knows apparently.
It's. I'm trying to think like the dumbest. Like it's Rob Lowe.
Actually, he
Steve
could probably like.
Steve Carell. I was hoping they were gonna get that dude. The guy from. I would have liked the guy from Lost. Jeremy Davies, I think is his name.
Oh,
What
I think he
character
was
is he?
the Dave.
creepy.
He's the guy that's like I can't remember who is. He's the guy that's on the island. I don't know. I can't remember who he plays. He's been in some other stuff, and he's kind of a creepy, kind of like
What's the actor's name again?
Jeremy Davies. I think is his name.
Oh, Faraday.
Daniel Faraday.
Yeah, I kind of thought he'd be a good David. I'm trying to think who else would be a good.
Such a weird looking dude.
Yeah,
Honestly, there's probably a lot of people from Lost that you could pick from, like the Ethan guy.
oh yeah, he. I mean, yeah.
I think that's Tom Cruise's cousin or something.
Oh, that's weird. That kind of checks out.
Hey, have Tom Cruise do it.
That'd be so distracting. Like Tom Cruise is just in the show.
He's like, hey man,
Tom Cruise would
Hey.
never sign on to be like a cannibalistic like rapist and like
he signed on to be this like mecca fat like rich
he did
dude.
that
But
to
that-
on that's a satire.
Weinstein,
Role. He
yeah.
would not do a like a serious like
Gosh, I was watching a recap of old Ricky Gervais stuff, and he was going through just his Golden Globes.
Oh, his Golden Globe
Postings.
thing from a couple years
And
ago.
I think it was 2016 he hosted, and he was like making jokes, and then it cut to Harvey Weinstein, and I was like, oh, that is so like so creepy. And then it's like 2020, he makes a joke about Harvey Weinstein. Felt like, hey, no, that was all you guys. You knew about it.
that's always funny.
He's funny.
And then the last episode's probably going to be
I mean, last episode, we talked about this last week, but last episode should have 2 things I want. The draft scene.
Yeah.
I think that's like, that's
There's no
something
way
that's
they
like,
don't have that in there.
if they don't,
that's
I'll
iconic.
like
Such-
riot.
that is
if
such
they,
an
if they were
iconic-
able to keep the monkeys in from the college, they have to be able to have, which I was super happy about.
Man, they wasted all the animal CGI
on the monkeys.
money on their monkeys.
Money well spent.
I mean, yeah, I don't see them not putting that in. I think that would be such a huge mistake. And
Isn't
it's
that
not-
where she says the line like it can't be for nothing? Or is that
Yep.
So
Yeah, there is some like kind of important like story beats to that moment. Which I mean, they could throw that anywhere, but like it's so like tied into like that moment that I think they'd be really stupid not to put it in. And then obviously just the finale of everything. If they just do it well, I'm sure they'll set up more detailed stuff with part 2.
Yep.
But
yeah.
other than that, there's really not much left to the story.
Yeah. I mean there has to be this part where like because when they go to the Fireflies, like she's unconscious at the time because
Yeah, so you meet you meet what's her face again?
Marlene.
Marlene.
Yeah.
Um,
But Ellie's never conscious in the Firefly.
she get knocked out before
they get there.
like
Yeah,
she's
like
in
you're
like
like
you're in,
underwater.
like,
You're
sewer or
getting, like, yeah,
something.
you're like washing on the water, and she's like passed out.
That's it,
And you
yeah.
get washed up on the shore, and then like the fireflies come out and get you, and then you don't see her again until you. I mean, spoiler. I mean, until you pick her up from in the surgery room. She's unconscious.
Got you, baby girl.
Yeah,
I've got you.
yeah.
Dude, it's so good.
Oh yeah, so.
Oh my gosh.
And I will say, I've been like, I feel like I've been like the probably, and I don't feel like I've been super critical of Bella Ramsey, like, but I've been like, out of all the actors, she's been the one that's like not convinced me the most. She fully won. She like completely like in this last episode, I'm like, all right, she's been really good the entire time, but like this was the episode where I'm like,
and I think I mean, all the characters aren't exact just rip off the video game copies, which I don't think it should be anyway. But I would say that her character is like, even though she was like 100% Ellie to me, I do see that she's a little bit different. She seems a little bit more like brunty, like tough.
yeah,
Like just rewatching some of the video game stuff, Ellie seemed a lot more kind of like, I mean, she like swore like a sailor all the time anyway, but she's just
a little bit more childlike,
a little bit more like reined in, a little bit more soft spoken in ways.
Yeah.
And it's not it's not a slight on Bella Ramsey at all, but Bella Ramsey is just doing something different, and it still feels like Ellie. Like the first scene was like with her with the knife and everything. Is like, yeah, she's Ellie, 100%.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good.
So good.
They've like just.
I know I'm gonna cry in the last episode.
Oh yeah, I've already choked up a couple
another
times.
thing I want, I really hope they do, is I want the like map scene with Joel and some of the grunts when he's like, "You point to me on the map."
I mean, they already kind of did that with the.
I feel like they did that, but it was nowhere near in the same like way of like.
When does that happen in the game?
That happens when Ellie comes back to Joel, but they follow her, and then she runs away and tries to take them away from Joel.
Oh yeah,
and then Joel wakes up
and he gets a couple.
And he gets a couple of them, and he's like, "I'm gonna murder her."
Oh, I guess we could see that again. That'd be a good callback then to like the other.
I think so, and it would be in a.
He ends up killing them though in that. Like, yeah, he killed like the. Yeah.
He like stabs him in the leg. He's like, "You're gonna freaking tell me where these things are.
And it better be
on the same place as your buddy."
Oh, I'm really looking forward to the David and Ellie showdown though. Oh, so good.
I think they're gonna.
I hope they nail. I mean, that's so tense in the game. Like it's so creepy. Like he is so. Everything about that character is so creepy. And like when you first meet him in that cabin, like you're like, oh, like, and then like the showdown. Like
I was watching behind the scenes of the video game, and they were like talking about how Nolan North was like, they wanted him to play a character, and he came in and he was like, "Oh, I'm ready for this guy named David. Don't really know anything about him." And he's like, "I just don't want to play someone that's close to Nathan Drake."
Oh,
and they were like, "We have the perfect character for you." And he's like, "Yeah, that fits."
He's
the creepy cannibal guy.
He's creepy. He's super creepy.
And he was like, "Oh, I just like gotta come up with a voice." And I think they said that he like showed him a picture of David, and he just was like, "Oh, how about this?" It just goes like it's like super creepy, like higher register, like,
yeah,
"Oh, we can be friends. I'll protect you."
Yeah. Oh, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to watching like Joel go nuts in the last episode too. Because like you go nuts in the end of that game, like you have like that's when you
he does turn Nathan Drake where he just murders,
I mean that's
like,
in that
everybody.
game at least. I mean you get an assault rifle at that point. I'm pretty sure you get like an automatic rifle and you are just like mowing through people. Like it's like nuts. Like because you like have to gun your way because they're coming for you, right? Like you're fighting your way to the surgery room, I believe.
I think they. Well, okay, so I mean, we've been spoiling everything, but like when Marlene, when you meet up with Marlene again, is that when you have Ellie with you?
Yeah,
and then you shoot her.
No, you meet up,
or do you meet up with her without Ellie? Shoot her, and then you
shoot her. You shoot her with Ellie. You have Ellie with you.
Oh, okay.
She comes out and like you shoot her, and then she's wounded, and she's like, "Please just let me live." And he's like, "Nah, you just follow me." And then you like execute her, basically.
Okay.
Spoilers: Marlene does not make it out of this season alive. So.
There's a lot of people who don't make it out alive.
Almost everybody you're introduced to every episode is like, "Oh, new character.
Oh, they're dead."
They're dead. Sam and Henry. Oh, wow. Oh,
Tommy sticks around.
Yeah, Tommy.
For now.
Tommy. I watched I started the first episode with my parents. I went over and hung out with them last Saturday, and I'm like, hey, let's like start the first episode of the show. I've been trying to get them to watch it, and like I'm pretty sure they were both like, we stopped like to eat dinner like right after like Sarah dies, and my dad was like, "Wow, like this is like really sad." And I'm like, "Yes, yeah."
And I
rewatching it with him, I was choking up way more the second time watching it. Like I was like, "Oh, this is like I'm like I don't like this." Is sad.
I mean, no one's gonna say it's not a depressing story, but it's just done so well,
good.
and it's so good. And I absolutely love the payoff with Joel at the end of the first game. It just is like, oh, it's just so good.
Yeah,
so good.
So you think he makes the right decision?
I think so.
Morally, the right decision.
If I were in his shoes, I
would do the same thing he did too. But I don't know if I could go as far to say like he did the morally right thing. I'm not quite willing. I'm not quite willing.
What's your definition of moral?
I don't know. Maybe saving. What do you think, Dave? Do you think?
I think I've gone on record with saying like in his shoes, yeah, I make that call. But like,
what if it was me on the table?
Is that like the right decision?
It'd be like, you know what?
Like it's probably not, right?
Yeah.
But that's the whole point of the game. That's the whole point of and like their last interaction. It's like oh man, you know.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing how they do that final scene too. Like, I hope they keep it to like. I hope the last shot of the show is that last scene. I hope they don't do it where like they're like back in Jackson or whatever.
No, that's for the beginning of season 2.
Yeah, I'm hoping it just literally like cuts to black, right? Like
I think that's what they'll do. I have heard that she's returning for the second season, or Bella Ramsey's returning for the second season.
Okay, but
I'm pretty sure they'll just use her in like flashback stuff, like how they use.
Oh, you don't think they're gonna have her play Ellie?
I just can't buy her as like
as a 20-year-old, because she's supposed to be 20 in the second game, right?
I think 18 or 9, which is funny because Bella Ramsey's. I don't know. I don't think so.
She's like 20 right now, right? I don't think they'll recast her. I don't think they'd
recast her. No,
I just can't buy her as an older Ellie.
I don't know. I mean,
different hair, different makeup. You know, like and not necessarily. I don't mean necessarily like makeup, but like film makeup. How they can make people just look a little older and everything.
I didn't think I was gonna like when I heard who was cast for her. Like I was skeptical. Like I was the most skeptical of her going for the first season because I really wanted Caitlin Dever, who was at this point was too old to play her. I feel like probably.
Who's Caitlin Dever?
She was in a movie called Booksmart, and she's been in a few other things. She looks like Ellie to me, and she would totally be great for playing her if like they did recast. But I don't think they can recast. I wouldn't be. I don't think I would like that at this point.
Oh yeah.
So, but I mean, now that they have her in that role, I mean, also like.
Why not have her as older Ellie?
I just don't want to see a recast. I don't like that for like. I don't think especially because Bella Ramsey is like she's 20 years old. I think in real life.
I think she will be perfectly fine for.
Yeah, that's why I'm like. Yeah. There's like it would seem weird to recast.
I think so.
I think you both are wrong.
I don't know. I don't think that's fair to like an actor to be like, well, they don't look enough. I don't know. Like I get that like she looks like pretty young for her age, but I would rather just roll the dice with her. Like it seems weird.
I think that's the problem with adapting something like a video game sometimes is, and I don't think it's necessarily like a fault of fans, but there is much more of an expectation of like we have this like idea of what the character is supposed to look like because we've literally seen them. And I think people really want the characters to look like almost exactly or as close to what we see in the video game.
I just think I don't think that's older. That's all.
Well, I think they've more like de-aged her,
whatever, but
they de-aged her for the show.
Have. Yeah, they probably.
What are you talking?
Yeah, I don't mean like digitally. I just mean practically. Like she like literally is. Like
practically
20 or something.
I mean, Tommy looks nothing like he does in the game, and I bought him as Tommy instantly.
Yeah, so. That's different though. Age is a different thing.
I don't know.
Age is just a number.
Also, they're not even. I bet they won't even be filming the second season until next year, would be my guess. I bet they won't even start filming until sometime in 2020.
Why can't you guys just agree with what I'm saying? Why every time I'm challenged on the show and it's really starting to get
to me. Better opinions?
No, I guys see that I like one thing that like I was kind of on the thing like I'm like
just like, blindly agree with what I say.
I'm saying I'm like I kind of took me a little longer probably than it should have to win me over because she doesn't look. I feel like her character is...
She's just not great as Ellie. That's the thing. She's not good.
Oh, man.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll cast Emma Watson.
I would... No. They're not going to cast...
As long as she doesn't have to sing. Oh, wait, she does have to sing. Never mind.
It's a very important. No,
Did you guys watch Beauty and the Beast with her?
I did not.
No.
Man,
Did
I
she
don't
sing?
think. I'm trying to think if I've watched.
She
any
tried
of
to sing.
I'm trying to think if I've watched any of the Disney, and I'm going to use the word live action remake very lightly
Lion King?
for those films. I'm going to use that very.
Did you know Last of Us was actually adapted from an animated Disney movie back in the day?
The Last of Us.
Yeah, it's the Black Cauldron adaptation. Little people don't really know that.
Yeah. Neil Druckmann stole it from.
Yeah. Ellie's based off the creepy, weird dog thing in that movie. Have you guys seen
thought
that
she was
movie?
based off the-
It's like
I have not.
it's messed
I
up.
saw it like a long time ago. It's definitely like one of those like, how is this a kids movie?
It was one of the first
have to
things
check it out.
I watched when Disney Plus started and they had all the movies on there because it was one of those movies that I either had never seen or I just didn't remember any of it. And I watched it and I was like, this movie.
No, it was probably a movie that mom
weird.
and dad were like, we're not going to let you see this.
I would not be surprised by that because
We're going to pop in the brave little toaster. For
the
20
yeah.
That movie's messed up too. Hey, parents should not have let kids watch a toaster. Like I was haunted. I still have it
Landon,
like
it's a
ingrained in my.
toaster.
I have ingrained in my memory.
What's the worst thing a
of the,
toaster
the
could do?
AC unit dying? That
Wasn't it
horrifying.
just like Jack Nicholson, basically?
I don't know. And then I have
pretty
that.
sure
Then I
he's
have
doing a
the.
Jack
I
Nicholson
have the
impression.
memory of the nightmare the toaster has when he's like falling into the flames, and there's like the firefighter, like the clown firefighter, like
Yeah.
that ingrained in my brain. Like it's just there.
Grain
forever.
in a membrane.
Yeah. So
In the Black Cauldron, the bad guy is like legitimately frightening. He's like some demon skeleton guy, and he's voiced by John Hurt.
Oh.
He's
Oh my
he's
God.
creepy.
And an alien bursts out of his chest.
Not again.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Which spoof is that from? Is that
That's Spaceballs
Spaceballs?
spoofing Alien, obviously, but yeah. But yeah, Black Cauldron's weird, Landon. You should watch it.
I do you think I'd
And,
like it.
and Mick too, if you haven't seen it in a long time.
Think I'd like it.
I think you'd like certain aspects of it.
You're kind of messed up. You'd probably like it.
I am messed up. I'm a deeply flawed person.
Anyway, so just 2 episodes left. I mean, the show's actually flown by, honestly.
Yeah. I feel like they've paced it pretty well. I feel like.
They've paced it really well, and they've stuck. And I think it just like the praise really goes to the Last of Us video game for just being such a like tight story, just a good. Really, the story is the main part of the game. That's like the shining stuff.
Yep.
And it just translates so well.
To television.
television.
And the stuff they've changed is all, for me, for the most part, it's like all made sense for the stuff
It's
they've
really
changed
they've
to make
honestly
fit the
just
medium.
cut out a bunch of like video game playing stuff.
the padding of the game.
Yeah, the stuff that just wouldn't translate well to TV.
Yeah. I heard I saw some people online be like, oh, they should have easily made this first season, this first game into 2 seasons. I'm like, you're crazy. Like
No, that would have been
it would have
like,
been like stretched so
that
like
would
I'm
have been like episode or season 2 of Walking Dead. Why would you want that?
yeah.
There was so much boring
Filler. Yeah,
bullshit
I don't want
in
any
it.
filler in this. There doesn't need to be any filler.
All right, guys, we have 8 episodes on a farm.
Yeah.
Let's find one person that we all know what happened to her.
yeah. There's been some great memes that have came out of that season of The Walking Dead.
Oh
Like
my
great
God.
Shane memes, like
Zombie Shane?
I don't know. Have you guys seen the ones where they're like it's like Shane and Rick talking? They're like, he's like, you don't know the way. We're lost, man. We're lost. And like that's so good.
Yeah.
Zombie Shane.
No, that would have been a terrible mistake.
Where would they have
Don't
even
have
ended
more
it?
than
Like
that.
when they get to Wyoming?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm like, where would I'm like, there's just not that much. Like
He
what-
hugs Tommy, and then they cut to credits, and then it's like
Well, I hear like the people be
Joel
like,
and
oh,
Ellie will
Dave-
return.
There's like people would be like, oh, the David storyline deserved at least 2 episodes. I'm like, David in the game, that's like an hour and a half of the game.
Maybe.
Like it's not long. Like you meet him, he kidnaps you. Like he's not like none of the sections, none of the characters you meet, you spend that much time with. You're with Bill for like a couple hours, maybe.
You spend more time with Sam and Henry in the
Yeah.
show.
Yeah,
Honestly, like
yeah. None of these like people that are they're lunatics. I think a lot of people that are like, oh, like.
that would have made the show worse if they were like, yeah, we're good.
And then you have all the people. I'm gonna this is like a weird, like all the people coming out of the woodwork, be like, "Wow, the agenda with like all the gay characters that they've added." I'm like, well, all these people were like gay in the game. So like, I don't know what people are complaining about. Like, I don't know, like,
Probably people that didn't play the game.
Yeah, but like
Probably,
people
or
who
people
didn't
that,
pay
like-
attention, maybe.
yeah, like they're like, what? Or, like they didn't play the DLC, which I'm like, I feel like even if you don't play the DLC, like I feel like there's hints like in the game, like So I don't.
I like that they kept in the line where they're driving the truck and then she finds the magazine.
Yeah, it's like
I was like, oh yeah,
That was like 1 for 1.
yeah, pretty
Why are
much.
these
It was like
pages
exact.
like,
Those aren't. That's not.
how do you walk
kids.
with that thing? Like,
See ya, dude.
oh, it's so good.
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, I think that the penultimate episode, like that's perfect. The whole David thing for that, because then they can wrap everything up with that last episode.
I do feel like the last episode's got to be like 90 minutes, right? If not, like
I mean, they've already
it
had
is-
like 2 episodes that were that long, so I wouldn't be surprised if they had another one.
I think Will was saying the last episode is like an hour and 20 or something.
perfect.
It is a longer episode.
It's like a movie, a good movie.
Yeah, a little nice little short horror movie. Mm-hmm. If I see like a horror movie that's like a 90-minute runtime, I'm like, ooh, might be a good one.
Yeah.
You guys watch anything else?
I feel like I was, but I don't think so.
I watched Hacksaw Ridge, the movie.
Ooh.
That was pretty good. Andrew Garfield was really
Cool.
good and was really brutal. I don't know if you guys have seen it,
I have not.
I have seen it.
where he's up like
Somehow
rescuing
missed that
people
one.
and stuff.
He's so good in that movie.
He is really good. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, I think I've liked
my
Andrew
gosh.
Garfield in pretty much everything I've seen him in, starting with Doctor Who, of course.
Wait, who did he play in Doctor Who?
Oh gosh, this was a really old. Well, I mean, old and for the new episodes, but it
Was
was
he like the boy with the gas mask or something?
no. It was way before that. It was when the
What?
Daleks like invade New York City. I think this is when David Tennant was the Doctor. And it's like a 2-parter that takes place in New York. So it's a non-British episode where they're
Puts
in
on
New
a
York
Spider-Man
in the
mask and
1920s.
swings around at the
I
end of the
think.
episode.
And
So you're talking about this like I'm ashamed of like I definitely saw these episodes.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
watched
you have
all of
seen this
Tennant's
episode,
runs,
yeah.
so.
and he plays like some like dirty little street kid in New York who has one of those hats, like a Newsies hat and everything, and
Yeah.
he's speaking in an American accent.
That show, I don't know, like it's a weird show for me, Doctor Who. Like I feel like there's like probably 5 or 6 episodes in that show out of like the newer run that like are like probably some of the best TV I've ever seen.
Let's see. The Weeping Angels.
That great.
That's an amazing episode. Dave showed me that one, and then he showed me the gas mask one.
The gas mask one's great.
It was really good.
There's like a 2-parter that like involves like hell or something. I can't remember what it's called. They're on some planet and it's like dealing with like mortality and stuff.
And then any episode with Karen Gillan is.
Most of her episodes were pretty good. It kind of like soured close to the end. Some of the stuff I was like, oh,
No.
there's quite a few
No, it
episodes at like the end of her run that I was like, man, these are so
She's
boring.
amazing.
Yeah.
No.
That was always my frustration with that. Like there'd be like once every season there'd be like a couple like really, really compelling episodes. They were like really good sci-fi. And then like the rest it's just I felt like a lot of it was so much garbage.
Was she with Matt Smith?
Mm-hmm. She started
David
with
Tennant?
Matt Smith. So the Doctor changed when the companion changed. Sometimes they overlap, but that was like a clean break.
Is the Doctor still a chick?
I don't know.
I think she's
It was an old dude for a while, right?
Yeah, it was Peter Capaldi. And then it was Jodie Whittaker.
I got like
From-
halfway through the Peter Capaldi stuff, and then
I like Jodie Whittaker. She was really good in Broadchurch.
I have not got to her stuff yet. One of these days I'll get to it. Like I used to really like Doctor Who, and then like I have a really hard time finishing the Karen Gillan stuff and then starting the Peter Capaldi stuff. Did you see the episode where like it was like cowboy times and
Karen Gillan, I mean, she left. She went. I mean, she ended before Matt Smith's run did because her and her husband or whatever, they like get capped by the Weeping Angels or whatever in the end. Karen Gillan.
spoilers.
I don't care about spoiling Doctor Who because like, they could literally erase everything. Like, there's no rules in that show.
No,
So,
yeah, I'm
like,
saying so. Like, it was their last season. I think like I had a really hard time getting through. And a couple of those episodes I watched probably multiple times because like I would watch it and then I like wouldn't keep going, and then years later I would try to like, okay, I'm gonna watch this season, and I'd get to like the same episode and I'd be like, gosh, I just can't. And like finally I powered through at one point and I got through half of what's her name, Olivia
Colman.
Coleman, is that her name?
No, that's Oscar-winning actress.
Yeah.
I know who Jenna Coleman. It's
Jenna Coleman. I got through like half of her stuff with
Wild
no with Peter Capaldi.
with Harry Styles.
The stuff I did see with Peter Capaldi, I did like. I never got to the other Broadchurch actress. What's her name?
Jodie Whittaker.
Jodie Whittaker. But
I think she's done too.
one of these
I
days.
think. I think I finished all of Matt Smith's run as the Doctor. I believe I made it. I watched all of Eccleston, all of Tennant, and I think all of Matt Smith.
You're really boring, Dave.
Yeah, he just keeps looking up at the clock that he has up on the ceiling.
I'd rather look at the ceiling than look in Landon's face.
I've been
Look at all the
watching.
texture up there.
I
I could find other faces up there besides Landon's. Do you guys ever do that? Look at walls or whatever and find faces?
No.
Oh,
I don't.
me neither.
I've been watching more BoJack Horseman.
Oh, you know what you guys should watch? Sorry, go ahead.
Man, this show is like so good.
Better than Last of Us?
I mean, it might be.
Don't
like. I'm like. I mean, it's like
It's very different. It is very just for the record.
no,
It is very
it's not
different.
what I've heard. I think it's pretty close.
I mean, I think they're like both like exceptional. Like, I mean, like BoJack Horseman. Like, I like started the show once. I watched one episode. I'm like, yeah, and then I just got back into it, and I'm like, I mean, this is like prestige television. Like,
He's not
it's
joking,
that
by the
good.
way.
Like, this is like, I mean, it's probably somewhere in my top 10 right now, and I'm like halfway through or almost halfway through. Like, I'm
And you're
watching
not even to the
episodes that are,
dark
like,
stuff yet.
Oh my god. I watched an episode the other night. I need to focus. Sometimes I still get distracted by my phone because I'm like literally stupid. But like for the most part, like it's like a show that like keeps my attention like from start to finish. I'm watching it. Like it's funny. It's quirky. There's like actually really complex world building.
Yes.
What they're doing with like the world they exist in. Like it's not just like, oh, here's a world that like there's like animal people. Like they like have funny things. Like there's so many funny jokes to deal with like the characters that are animals or like just like stuff in the background. But I watched an episode where the character Bojack, he plays a secretariat in a movie, and it's supposed to be like a very serious like Oscar winning movie, and they go to like a film festival that takes place underwater. And like the whole episode he has like an underwater helmet on and he doesn't think he can talk. And like the entire episode there's literally like no dialogue.
There's very little. There's some at the very beginning of the episode,
and like one like and a little bit at the end, like,
and a
very
little bit at
briefly,
the end.
like,
But for the most part, there is very little. There's like no dialogue in the episode, and it's like a
and it's
20-minute episode.
Yeah, it's like 20. Yeah, and it's like this very whimsical but like very sad and depressing like episode that like you never like all the emotion is just conveyed through the animation. And it was like I like the episode ended and I was like just like I felt like I just like like heart torn out basically.
Well, and I'm really glad you liked that episode, and you messaged me specifically because that episode I think is my favorite episode in the whole show.
Okay. I definitely like watched it and I'm like, oh, if I were to like show someone, like if I were to like point out to an episode like makes this show special, like this would be a specific one that I would like point out because like it felt like something like extremely unique that they did with like a format that I would not expect from like a 2D animated show about a horse person.
And I think that's a good episode too because it's pretty self-contained. You don't need a lot of like understanding of what's going on. It's not too dark of an episode. But also there's enough going on. I think that would be a good episode show. Like if someone watches this and they like that episode, I think you could be like, you will like this show. And if they don't like the episode,
it's not for everybody. I mean, like it's not something my parents would probably like, but like as someone that's like, you know, kind of like a depressed sad person, like it's
a
like
depressed
it really
millennial
speaks to me. Yeah, like it really speaks to me like on like a very like deep level. Like there's like a line in the show. What is like even like at first like there's a character named his name is literally Mr. Peanut Butter.
I love Mr.
It's like
Peanut
this
Butter.
happy like he seems like this happy douchey golden retriever. And like some of the lines he said like he's like getting like way more complex. Like and he's like had some lines that like just like crush me. Like that like make me so incredibly sad. Like show's great.
No, I really do like Bojack.
Yeah. So I don't know if you would like it, Mick. I think you should try it though.
Okay.
Have you been paying attention to anything I would say?
Yeah.
Mick was looking at the ceiling.
Sounds amazing. I found like 4 different faces in this.
4 different phases. Was Bojack up there?
You were.
What?
So was Colby.
Oh no.
Kobe lives in the walls.
Dave, you should watch Top Gun Maverick.
That is a really good movie.
Yeah, you told me I should watch that.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep telling you until you watch it
Okay.
It's very fun.
every week.
Also, like I feel like there's some like emotional payoff in that movie
There's
too.
some really great emotional stuff in that movie.
Yeah,
Not gonna spoil anything.
and the action is great.
Oh my gosh. I wish you would have seen it in the theaters because it just like that's like a theater movie to see, just the surround sound, the giant screen. But some of the stuff they do in that movie with the jets is just
I watched it on
Insane.
like in Iowa and like Megan's parents like probably 90-inch television.
yeah.
So it was like a
fairly-
theater going
It
experience.
was basically like a theater. Like yeah, it was basically like a theater. Like
That's crazy.
yeah,
Yeah, you should.
while eating Giordano's pizza.
It's not as good as Costco.
I mean, I don't know. They're different.
Yeah.
Nothing beats Costco.
We are running kind of long, but
Costco's the best.
but Landon, do you want to talk about your purchase?
Oh yes, I bought some protein shakes from Costco.
Best protein shakes.
No,
Protein.
I bought a sports car. So,
What?
In GTA?
a Porsche 911.
No way.
$200,000.
I don't believe you.
You sold your house.
I did
but
sell the house.
You have a sports car.
I have to be out of here by the end of the week.
You're moving in with me.
Yep.
Well, because he can't live in the car because it's too small.
No, it's too small.
It's a Porsche.
It's very impractical.
No, I bought a Mazda Miata RF. So hard.
You're-
What's the
convertible.
RF stand for?
All right. I have to tell the story. I feel like the car is very cool. I would say it's very cool. It's very tiny. It's very zippy. May or may
Little
not
could
be
drive that
in love
car.
with it, but
Okay.
it's a great car. I can't drive. I've only driven it like twice because it snowed the day I bought it, so now I can't take it out.
We're driving to the dealership, and it just is like raining snow.
Yeah. We get there and they're like, we polished it for you. I'm like, well, thanks for nothing because it's gonna be ruined. But
As soon as you go out into the weather.
But so I went to test drive it. So I found it online, and it's through. And they had it over on the west side of the state.
How does that work? Did you have to pay for them to ship it?
No,
over?
they did it for free.
Dang.
So I'm like, all right.
That's when they're really hoping like
You buy-
this guy
yeah.
buys this.
So if it's from like further away, like there's charges to it. But I think if it's within a certain miles away, they do it for free.
That's good.
So I shipped it over. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna test drive it. I was like pretty sure I was gonna buy it because I'm like, I can't imagine I'm not gonna like driving this car.
Yeah.
So I drive it. Well, so I show up to the location in Spokane, and I walk in the place, and the guy that helped me, like I'm sitting waiting for I have like an appointment. I'm sitting in like their waiting area, and like this like dude like peeks his head around the corner where I'm sitting, like looks at me for a minute, and, like darts back around, and I'm like, all right, that was kind of weird. And then like probably 15 seconds later, he darts back around. He's like, you wouldn't happen to be Landon, would you? And I'm like, I actually am. So I get up and I walk with him. He's a guy probably my age, I'm gonna guess, maybe a little bit older, maybe younger. I'm really bad at guessing age. Like
He looks younger to me.
younger, so probably like yeah. So we sit down. I immediately look at this name tag. His name's Tristan, spelled Tryston. I'm immediately like, I don't know. It doesn't seem. I don't know. I feel like a Seinfeld thing where I'm just like, I don't know. I don't really like this guy's name. I don't know. And he's like kind of.
You're like Jerry, like getting out of his theater seat, going like, nah.
Yeah, I'm good. So I sit down. He's like, oh hey. Or actually, as we're walking back to his desk, he goes, all right. So we're checking out a Mazda Miata, RF. He's like, and he looks at me and goes, what does the RF stand for? Like genuinely asking me, and I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, shouldn't you know that? Like, is like the car salesman? Like, shouldn't that like I knew what it meant. It's their whatever their terminology for it being
Roger
hard.
Federer.
Exactly. I got Roger Federer's personal Mazda Miata.
You got a great deal.
I did, yeah. But whatever, it's designation for hard top versus soft top for the convertible. But like I'm like
Rooftop for
I don't know. But like I felt like that's something like if he didn't know, he probably shouldn't have said. He shouldn't have probably asked the customer
Probably
what it
not.
meant. I'm like, that's like a whiff. But we sit down, he's asking me, he's like his second thing was like he's like going through the paperwork, he's like going through the cost of it, like before we do the test drive, and he's like asking if I'm gonna finance or cash or like if I'm going through my bank or through them. He's like, are you doing a trade in? I'm like, no trade in. He's like,
Yeah,
all
I'm
right.
just gonna steal it.
Yeah.
I've played enough GTA. I know how this goes.
So he goes, oh, perfect. No trading. He's like, well, 'cause I'm like, well, dude, I live in Spokane, Washington, where like 3 to 4 months of the year, like the roads are horrible. I'm like, I don't feel like I should probably be driving this car. I don't think it'll do that well in the snow. And he's like, well, I don't know, man. You could probably put some studded tires on. And I looked at him. I'm like,
No.
I'm like, dude, are you looking like? I'm just looking
He
at
just
Like a
really
what?
wanted you to buy the car.
I don't know. I'm like, are you dumb? Like, why would I put like who's putting studded tires in their rear wheel drive? Like,
Did he also say, make sure you put them on the front tires?
So like I'm like and he's like, well, what other car are you driving? I'm like, I drive a Subaru Legacy. He's like, oh, Subaru guy, I like it. And I'm like, all right, just like I'm not a Subaru guy. Like
I just
drive
have
a
a
Subaru.
Subaru.
Like I happen to have a Subaru. And he's like, and then like later he's like, so like why aren't you getting like a WRX? Since you have a Subaru. And I'm like. And I look at him and I just kind of like, I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, there's kind of, I don't know. I just kind of get like a little quieter. I'm like, there's a little bit of a stigma, people that drive WRX.
You basically said people who drive WRXs are the biggest douchebags on the planet.
That's what I was kind of
and they know
insinuating.
it.
And then I also
driving around.
followed up with, I go, and I'm like, I don't really want to drive a manual car. And I'm like, and I feel like if you really want to have the full WRX experience, it has to be a manual. And I feel like everything I said was true. I feel like those are very commonly held beliefs that like Subarus have a stigma. I feel like they're the newer, like the WRX is like the newer. I remember seeing like all like the stupid tricked out Civics. But, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's like the evolution of that. Like now, like it's the WRX. So we go out. And he's like, all right, I'm going to pull the car on to test drive it. We walk out, and he's like, all right, you can drive it for 15 to 20 minutes. And he looks at me very earnestly, says, but no more than 25. Like by all means, like something like horrible would happen if I drove the car for more than 25 minutes. So I hop in. He's telling me to be very careful, and I'm like, because he's not riding with me. So
That's so weird.
I thought it was weird. I'm like, all right. So I leave the parking lot, and then like I look down the bottom left because it's a push to start. I see like a notification that says like key not present. And I'm like, that's probably kind of weird. He didn't give me the key, like the key fob to the car. But I'm like, maybe that's their way of like preventing you from going nuts and just taking off the car or whatever. Like, so I drive around for like 20 minutes. I get back to the lot, and he comes like jogging out. He's like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you didn't turn the car off. I didn't give you the keys. Like, and I'm looking at him. I'm like, dude, what? I'm like, so this was a legitimate mistake. Like he's like, I tried to call you, but you didn't answer. I'm like, yeah, man, I'm driving a car. Like I'm test driving a car that I do not own. Why would I answer my phone from a random phone number I don't have saved?
You like get a phone call. You're like, oh, let me pull over to the side and shut off the car. And
It's the phone. I'm like, what? Like you wanted me to answer the phone while I'm driving this car that I'm like, okay, dude. Like
this guy's a moron.
Yeah, I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, so I got out of the car. I'm like, yeah, I really like it. You know, and he's like, well, it's up to you, man, if you want to buy it. And I'm like, well,
that was my favorite thing that you told me the other night. It's like,
it's
well,
your decision.
duh.
I'm like, yeah, man. Like, who? Like, what? You make the call? Like, you told me I have to buy the car? Like,
yeah. That's
like,
said
yeah,
too.
I'm like,
that's like a spouse talking to another spouse. Like, it's
Yeah,
your
I'm
call,
like,
honey.
yeah.
Like, not like
Yeah,
the salesman to a potential customer.
yeah. So I walk in. I'm like, well, no, I want the car. I'm like, I had enough fun driving. I'm like, yeah, I want this vehicle. So we walk in, we sit down, and like he's chatting about something else, and he's like mentioning how he like bought a Volkswagen GTI like a couple years before, and then like he gets like sad. He's like, that was probably not a smart decision. Like he's like, I don't have it anymore. Like, and I'm like, oh, dude. Like, and I'm like, well, what are you driving now? And he's like, oh, he feels this way. He's like, it's a Subaru, like it's a WRX STI. He shows me a picture of like a 94, like it's like a beat up like WRX, like I mean stereotypically like you see like the tricked out like older WRX, and I'm like oh, and he's like, and then he sighs, he's like, I mean it's an automatic too, but I mean it's still. I'm like sitting there, I'm just like I'm like dying. I'm like, oh man, I'm like, oh, I'm sure it's still fun. I'm like I totally like
You're not a complete failure.
yeah. I just didn't address the fact that I've like
You totally crapped on like WRX owners.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, dude.
Especially if it's an automatic. You gotta be a complete idiot.
Like, if you're in the WR, I don't know. I don't know a lot about cars, but I feel like WRX people are like, oh, it's gotta be manual. Like, oh, you gotta have the full manual experience. Like, so felt really bad. Decided to not acknowledge what had happened and just proceed like nothing had. So
at the same time,
probably for the best.
This guy was like, I don't know what it is about him, but he was the type of guy that I just wanted to like open my mouth and just say stuff to him.
Just see what he would say. Like,
so I drove Landon to the dealership because apparently all of the rest of our friends are total a-holes and don't give a crap about Landon or anything. So I was like, hey, I'll step up and I'll actually be a good friend for Landon here.
Thank you, Mick.
I was still late because I misread Landon's text.
Fine.
But you know what? We got
late?
there.
I feel like if you're,
That's what counts.
I ought to, like if I'm handing him a check for like a lot of money,
They're gonna
I feel
wait
like,
for you.
I feel like they can wait a little bit.
They're gonna wait for you.
The guy though did make a joke when we showed up late. I'm like, hey, sorry we're late. He's like, oh, that's a $15 charge. He's like, we gotta be, and then he like made a joke about like going to buy beer immediately. And I'm like, seems like a weird joke to make at a car dealership.
Yeah. Hey, you want to go get drunk?
Yeah, I'm like, yeah. Seems maybe inappropriate,
But this Tristan guy, first of all, stupid name. Come on. I don't know what his parents were thinking.
they spelled it wrong, man. Like they spelled it wrong too.
There's no right way to spell Tristan, Landon.
But isn't the commonly accepted way? Isn't it Tristan?
Dude,
right?
I don't
Isn't that
know.
the standard.
It's a fake name, just like Landon. It's not a real name.
Man. I'm pretty sure Landon means grassy hill.
Okay, okay. Look here,
That
Grassy.
explains a lot. Actually.
Exactly. Yeah.
Grassy Hill. So this moron comes out with Landon's keys, right?
Well, no, first, okay, you know, the first thing we walk, he comes up and he's like, "Oh, you're here, man." He's like, "We got it all ready for you. We got it all polished." Like, and then he goes like something like, he's like, "Don't worry, I'll be there when we sign the papers. I'll be with you when we sign the paperwork." Like I was gonna be like worried that I'd be signing with somebody else.
I'll hold
like,
your hand for
like,
you.
I'm like, dude, I'm like, we don't need you. Like, but then yeah, what did he do? Sorry, like,
So he came out. First of all, he was like, "I can't put your sticker in the back window."
he was all like, he was like saying like he can't. He like came out like Mick and I were looking at the car. He like kind of like shuffles out with like the temporary license plate, like the paper one. He's like, I have to put this on the back window, and then he's looking at the car. He's like, I don't really know how to get it on the back window. Like, he's like, I don't want to like crawl over your seats of your new car you just bought. And I'm like looking at him. I'm like, dude, I'm like, you could do whatever you want.
Well, like Landon was like, you could, put it in the back window. He's like, yeah, I really just don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to just climb all over
that's
the
like
inside your
basically
car.
what he said. Like he was like basically gonna like make me do it, and I'm like, dude, like,
Yeah, it was like,
and then like I like went to open the door for him, and it's like locked. He's like, oh no, she has the keys. And the lady,
like he was, the keys. Oh, we need the keys to open the door. And so then at this point it was like, oh, I'm like looking at the car with Landon, like, yeah, this is really cool. I think that's when we took pictures or whatever.
Yeah.
And then we went back inside and he's like, hey, I got the keys for you. And he came over with the keys and he was like, he was about to say something like, man, just make sure you don't. And then he just drops these like two like pretty expensive looking set of keys, key fobs on the ground. Something shatters off the key ring. And it sounded like he was about to say like, make sure you don't drop the keys. You have to be a real moron to drop keys.
It felt like he threw them on the ground. Like,
I mean, it was a tile floor.
The part that broke off was like the tag, like key thing that I'm gonna probably throw away.
This guy's a freaking idiot.
Yeah. I look at him deadpan and go like, oh man, you just broke my car.
And then he was like, what did he say?
He said something. He got like all defensive. He's like, well, we've had a couple that are bad. And he's like, and they just got a brand new one. And then he goes, he's like, that's because you came to or something. Like,
yeah, he's like, yeah,
plug the name.
Just have to like,
but it got
sometimes please.
Yeah, he's like, but it got taken care of because you're at
Yeah, and there's like, sometimes
the training like kicked in at the very end.
He's like, sometimes the keys are bad at like that just happens. And I was like, I wonder why.
Yeah, you're like, I don't know why the other one's
like
broke.
He just freaking broke his keys.
Really, like he was offended.
She was like, oh man. I was
like really like he looked like he was like freaking out. Like we both had to be like, hey man, like
I was like, dude, I'm just joking. I mean, you did almost break his keys.
Yeah. I was upset too because I saw it hit the ground, like something shot off of it. And I'm like, oh my god. I'm like,
your reaction to it was definitely like, I'm gonna murder you.
I'm like,
I just spent so much money, and the first thing you do is drop the keys.
Like throw my like key fobs on the ground.
Because those probably are not cheap to replace.
I wouldn't think so. Like, because it's the whole key. I mean, like,
most of your money's going for those keys.
Yeah, most of it. Yeah. So
anyway, the guy was way over his head. He was probably like some moron janitor that was like, "Oh, give me."
Whoa! What's wrong with janitors?
Well, like when I went in, like his tag said like working here since 2022, I think. So like, I'm like, oh, like
we started in December.
I shouldn't be like critical. I mean, you should give new people a chance, but like,
yeah, but the guy's an idiot.
I mean, he was pretty.
He was a moron. The chick that helped you, she was
very nice, very nice,
she
very
knew
friendly.
What she was doing. Clearly, she had like done this a million times.
Yeah,
the guy really should have just been like, yeah.
That's kind of what it was. Like he came over.
He was gonna break something else.
He was.
I felt like he was gonna like take he was gonna take the bow off your car and like rip off like layers of paint.
So funny.
How do you take bow off car?
There was a moment where like he came over and like
freaking moron. The guy was so stupid.
I'm so glad you were there, like to see it. Like,
oh my gosh,
because I was telling people about him. Like, I was like, first day, I'm like,
what's the next thing this guy's gonna ruin on your brand new car? I was looking for the bathroom and I peed on your car.
All over your leather seats.
I couldn't find the bathroom.
There was definitely moments where like he was going up to the counter to talk to the lady doing the paperwork, and I was like, "Oh, I did this." She's like, "You did really good. You did really good."
She's like, "Good job, Tristan.
Yeah,
what a treat.
Thank you." Like something like, "Thanks for asking. You did it just right." Like something. They had like suckers, like lollipops at like the counter. I took one at one point. I was like sucking on it, and then he walked over and he had one in his hand, and like he did like a weird like salute to me with like a lollipop kind of thing. And I was like,
He's like, we both got one.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh my goodness.
He also admitted to me that like he was like I was telling him like how I thought it was cool that they shipped the car there for free, and he's like, yeah, he's like, I don't know how they like don't lose money on that. He's like I once had a car shipped here just so I could sit in it, and I'm like, why are you telling me this? Like,
Just so I could sit.
yeah, he's like, it was a Porsche, and I'm like, okay, so you had a Porsche shipped here just so you could sit in it. I'm like, I'm sure they were happy about that. Like, he's like, throwing the key fobs. That's something that like I'm gonna try not to think about because like now like every time I start the car, I'm gonna be like, how many more times is this gonna work before?
There's like a bunch of loose screws in there.
Yeah, like I mean, they're probably designed to be able to be dropped. Would be my I don't, but probably not like that many times. So
you should have just slapped him.
I would have felt bad. He was like really like I felt like he was like trying really hard, like but like not well.
Was he though?
I don't know.
Was he really?
He also told me that it's the best job he's ever had, and that him and his coworkers go bowling all the time, like after work. And I'm like, okay.
Probably sucks at bowling too.
Also, I didn't get to keep the bow. Like they have like the bow on the car, like
you seemed really disappointed.
I was kind of like, man, I just spent a lot of money on this car, and like I can't.
No, we have to reuse the bow.
He was like really like he's like you can't keep it. I'm like. I'm like, okay. Like
he just didn't understand the context of anything.
Had you already
like
signed
jokes.
everything at that point?
I had.
We were like ready to pull it out of the
garage. I just got to take the bow off, and I'm like, yeah, I wasn't gonna drive the car out of here with the bow on the hood, like it's not attached, like that. Like I would have put it in the trunk, and then put it back on the car when I got home.
I have to do another important job.
I have to take the bow off. Did I do good?
Another sucker.
It's gonna turn out like this is like the one random person in Spokane that like listens to our podcast. Like,
well, you didn't say his last name. It could have been anybody.
The one.
Could have been Tristan name with a Y.
The one Tristan that works at the
who drops keys all the time.
That drives a WRX automatic.
But great guy though.
Great guy.
Yeah,
great guy.
Really. Yeah.
And then I drove the car home in the snow, which was very scary. Even though nothing bad happened, and it seemed to handle fairly well.
You did run over. No.
Did Mick stick with you when you drove?
He did. He followed behind me.
Good.
I raced him home. I beat him home in my 2004 Camry.
Yeah,
sucker.
Which had very little air in the front right tire. Very little air.
That tire's on borrowed time.
You should get some new ones. Actually, you should get a new car. You should also buy a Miata. We could be Miata bros. And then Dave can buy one.
I don't want.
And then
Dave would really love your car.
It looks really nice. It looks really cool. I just don't want to spend that much money on a car that I can only drive. Actually, I could probably drive it year round here.
What are you talking about?
I could probably drive it year round
in
here.
Vegas for you could.
You live in freaking California.
Yeah, you could. Yeah,
that's like the place to have that car.
Yeah, but watch, we buy a Miata and then Bree gets stationed in Alaska.
That doesn't mean you have to.
Yeah,
you can still live in California.
Bye, hun.
I decided to buy even living in Spokane. I felt like I had to buy I don't know. I was like feeling this weird like thing that like I wanted to buy something really fun that wasn't practical.
Well, too, like okay, points for Trierston or whatever his name is. He did say you could take it down to like the local track.
Yeah,
I didn't even think about that. Like that would be cool.
I have a buddy that does that. He goes to the autocross.
That'd be
got like an
fun.
RX-8 or something, like an older like Miata type thing.
I want
think
someone
it's
to
a
do that
Miata
with like their like 98 Corolla. They're like,
How about
I'm sure they would let you.
oh, yeah, 2004 Camry.
Yeah, that tire was basically flat. Like so, like
if I just
it was at like 12 psi. Like
out of how many?
It was supposed to be like
It's probably like
28,
33. It's probably 32 or 33.
I think it was
For cold
20.
weather,
I think it was recommended
20.
25, or was it 28?
I think it's 28 for cold temperature.
And it was at 12.
But if I take mostly right hand turns, most of the pressure isn't.
I feel like it's pretty bad. Like we were filling it up, and like we could like literally watch like the tire like inflate. Like it was
like a balloon.
Yeah, that's what it was like. I was like, yeah. I don't know. I wanted something fun to drive around that's like not.
I think you nailed it.
And honestly, like it was expensive, but for like compared to other expensive cars,
really.
like it was
Not really.
Yeah, cheap.
I mean, for what it is,
I feel like it wasn't that bad.
I think it's. I would call that a cheap. I mean,
car.
not like.
Yeah, well, no, it is one of the more affordable. I mean, it's in the
Yeah.
same like it's like I mean, I think if you look at like if you like Googled affordable sports car, you're gonna get like a base model Mustang, the Miata, or like a base model Camaro or Challenger,
And something similar to like that size and like what it is, I would say that's on the cheaper side.
Yeah, because I was like
money wise, I think it's still like.
it's a lot of money to spend, but like it's not.
No, I think it's still like a decent like little sports car.
Yeah.
What
Well,
color
I was like
is
looking
yours?
at like mine's black.
black, right?
It's my racing color. My racing color.
Oh, nice.
I actually wore my Putt Putt Posse.
Oh, really? Oh, cool.
Yeah, I wore that. Yeah. I'm like, I want to wear this to the lot to get it because I'm like, it's kind of like,
Okay.
And then you
I'll tell
crash
Bree.
me off the street.
I'll tell
on our
Bree
way
if
home.
we get a sports car, it has to be yellow.
Yeah.
That means I get a baby blue
Yeah.
sports car.
I don't know. I wanted something fun and like also
Maybe I could just repaint my Camry.
no, dude, that Camry's falling apart.
Just get a can of Bear at Home Depot.
Splash. Oops,
But-
the windows.
Yeah, I looked at like some of the more expensive ones, like like I don't know, I looked at some like BMWs and like some like the Challengers and stuff. And I was like looking at them like
Mobiles, man.
and I'm like looking at these expensive ones with like the bigger engines and the more horsepower. I'm like, I don't think I'm quite big enough of a car person to appreciate like all the extra horsepower and like all the
also with BMWs, like all the service stuff
is expensive.
is
and,
super expensive. I feel like as a Mazda, like
I think they're pretty reliable.
that's
cars
way
also,
more
like,
way more cost effective if you're like taking it in to get work done or whatever.
so. And I don't know. I kind of like the sleeker, like small. I mean, the car is. It's like literally tiny. Like I'm like,
It comes up to like my belly button.
Yeah.
I'm standing next
like
to it.
it's like I was looking for the glove box in the like on the passenger side. I'm like, oh, it's not. It's like literally just in between.
And if I
the seats.
suck
Like,
in,
it's
it
like,
comes up to my waist.
Ew.
Yeah, it's tiny, but it's fun. I'm really excited for like good weather, like driving like, the top down. So
Yep.
So it's
And
a
it's the only
hardback
one that
can open up or hard
yeah,
top.
like
and
it's
it's not.
suction
And
to
you don't have to
itself,
do
right?
anything. It's all button. Like it's all like you just push a button and hold it down and it folds.
So like the trunk goes like, and then it goes, and then it goes.
Yep.
Yeah.
It goes what?
That's the one to have. I don't want to do that again.
So-
It sounds like BB-8.
But yeah. So and as Mick is the only person that was willing to give me a ride to the place. You were the only one that's going to be allowed to ride in it with me. So
Yay. Who else ditched on you?
Will, Oliver, Jordan. Jordan had to virtually golf, so that was very important for him. He had to go to the virtual golf simulator. So, I don't want to get into the fact that the other reasons why people wouldn't go help me, but
I mean, the reason is
they hate me. Everybody hates me.
they just don't care about you as much as I do.
They're jealous. They're jealous of Landon's looks, his height.
I don't know about that.
Man,
my glorious height.
you're hot.
I don't know about that.
You're a good looking guy.
I'm probably a 3 out of 10,
Oh, come on.
probably.
Better than a 2.
With your beard? Come on. Without the beard, yeah, you're like a tube.
I don't look good without face. I don't like the way I look.
You look
without
like
facial
a naked
hair.
mole rat without
I
the
do,
beard.
not like the look of myself. Like every time I do it probably twice a year, I shave everything. I'm instantly horrified. Like the moment after I do it, I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like,
What have I done?
yeah, that's literally that feeling. Like I take like the first stroke with the razor. And I'm like, well, I can't stop now, so I guess I'll just
You
do
could.
it.
Just stop.
That'd be so uncomfortable. Like I talk to people, like, what happened to you?
Like, I woke up and it was
nothing,
like that.
nothing. It just nothing happened.
Look at that.
Yeah, thankfully it grows back pretty quickly at this point.
That's with me too. Like I change my facial hair like every 3 weeks, but it always just grows back pretty fast. So it's like,
Yeah, even if I like shave it all off, like, and I'm like, oh my god, like I look horrible. Like it's like literally like 2 or 3 days, and I have like distinct, like noticeable stuff. So I'm like, all right, not the end of the world. I hate the feeling of it, like how smooth it is though. Like drives me crazy. I'm like,
when you shave it.
yeah, I hate smooth. It's the opposite of like my neck though. Like I have to shave that every couple days because like the neck hair drives me nuts. You pull it off, it looks good on you. Like yours comes in thicker. Mine comes in still like really.
Well, it's because I have like a pretty big double chin, so it kind of like
Natural barriers.
Yeah, mine comes in fast enough and enough to like it needs to be shaved, but not enough to like look good with the rest of the beard. So it's like the worst. Like I have to like shave every like other day to make it not look. So that's why I bought my sports car to overcome when I shave
to
the
overcome
hair off. Yeah, overcome
your fit. Oh.
overcome my.
Are we out of time?
Yeah, we're kind of over time.
Dude,
Well,
it's a late night
Well,
podcast.
Thank you for
All-nighter.
thanks for the story.
All-nighter.
And we
Thank
already
you for
broke our time on our show. We're on our new time slot.
Dave said we have to record on a weeknight.
Gosh, dang
This
it.
was I mean, we always
We wanted it like Will's bedtime's 8, so we wanted to make it where Will couldn't show up. So
I thought Will's bedtime was like 2
Why
in
do
the
you keep
morning.
looking at the ceiling?
yeah,
What are you
it's
doing?
driving. Hey, it's driving me.
Just
crazy.
tell us what you're doing.
I'm trying to test out this laser pointer. I use it with the dog because it basically.
Is there like? Do you think there would be maybe a more appropriate time to do that? Like,
We're kind of like trying to do a podcast right now.
Well,
Like,
I'm
I
able to
like
do
that
it at the
time.
same time. I
I'm,
don't know
like,
why it's so
trying to talk,
distracting
like,
to you guys.
I'm just sitting there, I'm like, what eldritch creature is like on your ceiling that's like threatening you to keep talking?
Hey,
Like,
speaking of
keep
eldritch
blasting it,
creature,
like-
did you guys hear that Elden Ring has DLC that was announced? All right,
I
well
did
that's
hear
our
about
show.
that. That's our show. And in 10 years, when I've gotten good enough to beat the main game, I can play the DLC.
Yeah.
So,
Me too. Bye, everybody.
Buy a sports car. You won't regret it.
Stop in, say hi to Tristan, ask him to help you out.
Have him like. I
Just
felt
ask-
like when I walked in, I got Tristan. Like I'm like, oh man, I got like the C tier like sales.
Don't even ask for his name. Just like point me to
when I go
point me
to
the
the used,
moron. and
like,
they'll like
and when I say used, this car is like basically brand new. Also, like
it's brand new.
it had
Come on.
it had
It's a brand new
it had
car.
392 miles on it. So I mean, but like,
I mean, it's a good thing you pointed that out, though, because otherwise the listeners will think that you're like,
I'm
a cheapo.
Yeah, I can't have them thinking that.
They would have thought you bought like an old like 90s beat up Subaru WRX. It's
Yeah.
an automatic.
But I'm like, I feel like the true used car salesman, like the experiences I walk in there and my job was to go buy a minivan for the family, and I leave with like a Challenger Hellcat, like for $90,000. I feel like that's the true sales car. Like I wanted that experience. Like you leave, like you're like, what happened? Like you're looking like you're like 9-year loan, like 20%, like interest. And you're like, oh no,
It's not that bad.
yeah.
Right?
I don't know. I feel like people walk in those places like not knowing what they like. You know what I mean? They just walk in there. I'm here to look at cars, and they like get sold something they don't want. Like I don't know. I feel like that's a bad strategy.
I can't imagine
I don't
doing
think
that. Like, that sounds...
I think people do that though. I mean, they're just like, I want to go look at cars. Like I like had this car shipped here. Like I was 98% sure I was going to buy it before I even like test drove it. You know what I mean? Like I'd done all my research. Like there was like two guys, like probably younger guys sitting in front of me with another salesman, and they were talking. They're like, all right, so you're going to put $64 down. I'm like, oh my god, like. So they were getting the real sales, like used car salesman.
Dang.
So yeah.
Okay, well, that's enough talk for now, but we can talk
No,
more.
no, I
next
want to keep
week
talking. I
about
wanna keep
cars and Tristan and The Last of Us and
We'll talk about Tristan every week.
oh no,
They'll probably
our
come up
segment.
again.
I do want somebody else to
Tristan's
go buy a
trials.
car from there and hope that they get Tristan. You have like a 1 in 8 chance, I'm pretty sure.
Well, thank you for listening. We'll be back later
Next Wednesday.
next Wednesday,
Most likely.
possibly.
I mean, we'll be back next Wednesday. Who knows when you'll listen to this?
Sometime in the future.
All
He
right,
just threw up in his mouth.
bye.
Goodbye. Peanut butter whiskey.
It's coming up.
Ugh, it's pretty good whiskey for like drinking a whiskey straight. I feel like it's.
I don't like doing that.
Did you not enjoy your glass?
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Hotkeys podcast. You can find us on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Castbox, YouTube, and other podcasting platforms. Visit our website, www.hotkeyspodcast.com. Follow us on Twitter at Hotkeys Podcast and join our Facebook group at facebook.com/HKHotkeys. Please like and review us and subscribe to the show on whichever platforms you use. Finally, you can contact us via email at hosts@hotkeyspodcast.com.